Cool. Well, let's get going. So for those of you that are here already, and for anyone that's watching the recording, welcome to our webinar today, where we're going to be talking about how to make the most of seasonality in e-commerce and marketing. Because we have a lot of content to run through today, and I really want to make sure that everyone's able to grasp every bit of it, understand every example, and walk away with a lot of actionable insights. We're going to hit the ground running. So to start off, intros are always important. Welcome. My name is James. I'm the business development lead here at ShopStory, which means I help drive growth here. And yeah, really excited. Today with me is our guest, Cornet. Cornet, you want to give a little intro?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, James, for inviting me. Happy to be here as well. Yeah, as it says on the slide, I'm the growth lead at Protos, which means that I am responsible for the growth of our ecom clients, and then we'll give a quick Protos introduction in a couple of minutes.
Amazing. So what we're going to be talking about today, essentially 4 parts. We're going to go through a quick introduction as to who is ShopStory. In other words, where am I here? What's this company that you guys are tuning into? As well as Protos, our guests, who we are, what do we do? Then we'll jump straight into the real meat and potatoes. The first thing we'll be talking about is seasonality, the fundamentals and types of seasonality. So trends to be aware of, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to be going through some really interesting examples. Then we'll be talking about collecting and analyzing data, right? How are you able to spot seasonality that's relevant to your shop? Again, more examples coming from Protos as well as us when it comes to automation. And then finally, optimizing marketing and operations in e-commerce so that you can maximize your benefits from seasonality. So kicking off with the ShopStory introduction. ShopStory is trying to fix a massive problem that we spotted here in e-commerce and marketing, and that is manual and repetitive tasks. It's been a long journey for us here at ShopStory. We started off many years ago under different names as actually also as an agency like Protos. And one of the main things that we identified was that there's just a lot of manual and repetitive work. And that's why we shifted gear into developing a software that's focused on solving this problem. But what we've seen is people lose tons of time just, really getting all of that repetitive and manual stuff done without being able to focus on the things that are really, really most important. And that prevents marketers in e-commerce from getting the most out of their marketing. So what we try to do is we try to turn manual tasks into e-commerce and in e-commerce advertising into automated workflows. And this even goes beyond e-commerce advertising at times as well. So what does that mean? Well, we are an API first software. So we integrate with a whole bunch of different tools, making it possible for you to connect these in various different ways. So at the heart of ShopStory is our drag and drop flow builder, where you're essentially able to connect all of these different tools so that you can take data from one tool and create, or from multiple tools, platforms, channels, and create actions in other tools, platforms, and channels. And obviously this can be simple, but it can also get really complex. Currently, we support marketing channels including Google Ads and Meta Ads. We support shop systems including Shopify, WooCommerce, and Shopware, and other really important tools like Slack, OpenAI for ChatGPT, Search Console, Google Search Console, Mailgun, Google Sheets, and the Merchant Center for other parts of your Google marketing. So all of these tools can be interconnected now, and you're able to create actions across them all. How do we do that? Well, like I said, we have the flow builder that essentially sits at the core of our software. You can use this to build any flow that you can think of. E-commerce companies often work differently than others. So sometimes you need a unique flow that works for you. We also, though, have a library of flows because there are best practices that work for everyone. And that's what we enable you to do. So flows that inspire you, you're able to dive into our library with hundreds of flows that you can adapt and then edit if you need to. We've also made it possible for you to request flows. We love to build flows for our clients, especially when we think that there's added value for everyone. So you're always able to request flows, and we look at these and we see if we can build them for you. And finally, we're also developing an AI assistant that can help you figure out how to build those flows yourself without having to always ask for help. So there's a ton of different ways to build flows. Sometimes it might seem overwhelming, but to be honest, once you really dive into it, The world's your oyster, and there are many, many possibilities. So, quick intro done about Shop Story. Over to you, Cornet, about Protos.
Yeah, thanks, James. Been a real pleasure working with Shop Story over the last couple of months. And I think, yeah, we are a marketing agency founded in 2016. So we've been working for 8 years now, based out of the Netherlands. But we've been helping clients internationally, also in the UK, Germany, France, and the rest of Europe. We have over 120 years of marketing experience here in-house with the 14 people that are working here at Prodos. And we're mainly helping e-commerce companies grow. And I think our three main USPs that differentiate us from other marketing agencies is that we have a performance-based business model. So we actually a big part of our fee is based on the actual results that we get for our clients. We have an in-house tech and data team because we are also seeing that connecting different APIs, making sure that all the marketing channels have the right data available. That's getting a larger part of our business. So we have a four-person in-house tech and data team who can help with like server-side tracking, cookie settings, and well, enhanced e-commerce definitely been a big one lately. And then we have our growth map, on which I actually have a separate slide. So if you can move on to the next slide. I really liked your talk about focus, because we think that is one of the main things that we should help our clients with, because there's so many different channels, so many different marketing opportunities across different countries, that it's really hard for customers not only to see where should we spend our next euro, dollar, or pound, but also with the often limited capacity that we have, what channels should we focus on? So we help customers look not only at their marketing channels, but based on over 250 key success factors that we've analyzed as Prodos. We help our clients to see, okay, these are the priorities you should work on over proposition, marketing strategy, content creation, technology and data acquisition and monetization. And yeah, sometimes we will be the partner that executes on one of these points. Sometimes the client will do it, or we'll add a third party, and that's definitely something that Shop Story has helped us with over the last couple of months by shaving some time of manual work, and also helping us fix those priorities quicker. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Really cool to hear that. Cool. So like you said, let's jump straight to it. Let's get into seasonality. So we're going to start with the fundamentals and types of seasonality. Now, we might all know what seasonality is, but I think definitions are always really important. I'm a bit of an academic myself. So what do we mean by seasonality in the context of e-commerce? Well, what we're referring to as e-commerce seasonality is the reoccurring online purchase patterns that occur annually or over any time period. In other words, there's an increase in demand for certain products during certain intervals each year. So the examples below kind of point this out, but we're going through more. Warm jackets, people buy these in winter, right? Gifts, people buy these before the holidays, and there's lots of different seasonality types that we see. Why is it important for online shops to consider seasonality? Well, obviously, we're all trying to deliver and capture maximum value. And to do that, online shops need to predict when and how much customers will demand certain products. This is important for a variety of different reasons. We'll be focusing on mostly on one, which is the e-commerce marketing side. But of course, you want to have all your stock and fulfillment ready. You want to predict demand so that you've got the right stock levels, you're ready to handle fulfillment. But you also really want to make sure you invest in marketing in the right places at the right time, whether that's paid, unpaid marketing, right? So that you can really capture maximum value during those peak periods and also not waste money during the off-peak periods. And of course, finally, you want to deliver a great experience. You want to make sure that your shopping experience is tailored towards the season. That way you can really maximize your conversion rate. So what types of seasonality should we be looking for? The first most obvious one that comes to mind is the weather-based seasonality. You've got cold seasons, you've got warm seasons. You've got products that are specific to the cold season, and you've got products that are specific to the warm season. Cornet, you want to talk through an example that you guys have worked through before?
Yeah, definitely. I think this might seem a very obvious example of seasonality, but then again, this is one of the harder ones actually, because gifts, we know this will always pop up somewhere at the end of November. It's usually the same period, but the weather based can really differ from year to year. So here I have an example from our client Brunoti. They're a board sports brand, focusing on, well, water sports during the summer, winter sports during the winter season. And yeah, they have a very big seasonality, as you can see, their jacket volume and bikini volume. But the moment when this needs to switch is different each year. And I'll use Brunoti as an example throughout this presentation. But the hard part here is that exactly when do we want to switch from the winter season to the summer season? This is something that is hard to plan, and there's obviously a lot of work there. So it's an interesting example, and always we're preparing a lot, and we're just waiting for what's exactly the right moment when shoppers will switch from their winter sport to summer focus.
No, exactly. And you can see a lot of effort goes into these. I mean, taking photos out there in on top of the mountains. And of course, my favorite photo, bottom right there, that's actually my hometown, Cape Town. So kind of cool to see Bernardi taking trips down to Cape Town just to tackle seasonality. So what other types of seasonality should we be looking for? Another obvious one is your holiday or event-based type seasonality. We all know about Black Friday, where we see big peaks in demand, but also things like cost per click, right? Right up until that period. The same thing for the holiday season, where people really spend a lot right before the holidays. How do you tackle these, and what did you see in over on your side?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have some examples here, and later we'll go into exactly how we make these type of switches. But these are the ones that are a little bit easier to predict, but there still goes a lot of data analytics into this. We have a customer wine discounter, one of the biggest wine websites in the Netherlands, and they obviously see a huge increase during Black Friday to Christmas of over 1100%. And then a new trend that has really popped up, because usually they had a huge drop off into January, but now they're seeing, because of the dry January trend. I'm not sure if it's in every country, but here in the Netherlands, a lot of people take a break from alcohol after the festive period. So what they're seeing is an increased
Some
trend
people.
in sales in January, but entirely different product range. So that is something that overnight we have to change all of the campaigns from, yeah, the festive season into like the complete opposite, not drinking any alcohol. What we see at the same time, because it's a really hectic period for us as an agency, because there, yeah, night and day changes between December and January. But because, for example, fitness delivery, one of our other clients that sells fitness gear, yeah, people are not really thinking about that in the last 2 weeks of December. But then come January, everybody has a lot of great plans for the new year, and their sales increase by over 600%, which, yeah, it's quite a challenge for us, because it's usually a holiday period for the people at Protos as well. So yeah, later in the presentation we'll dive into how we make those type of switches with limited people and resources available.
Yeah, but it's really crazy, some of these examples. I mean, if you think of dry January or the fitness trend, I mean, I was at the gym the other day and barely anyone was there. But I remember the second week of January, the whole place was full. And it's funny, but that's consumer behavior, right? That's how people behave. And that's what e-commerce shops need to be looking out for. And then one of our last examples, and I think what I want to stress here is all of these examples are really just to highlight how seasonality works and the different types of seasonality. Of course, we weren't able to come up with a fully exhaustive list, but the final one is economic seasonality. So in the graph here, what you can see is the demand for restaurants. And what you can see is at the end of every month, the demand for restaurants go up. And I think we all know that period when that paycheck hits, you see that bank notification on your app and you say, you know what, I'm not cooking tonight, right? I'm getting takeaway. I'm taking my partner out for dinner. And then as the month carries on, you start focusing on cooking more at home. So when people have more money in their pocket, they spend more. So I'm curious, how did you see this over at Protos?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really important one, especially because it's usually at the end of the month, and a lot of our clients still tend to set budgets on a monthly budget. And so you want to make sure that you're not spending too much of your budget within the first 24 days. On the 25th, we know people get their paycheck, and when they get money, they spend money. And on the other hand, you know that people are already looking for what they will purchase when the salary check comes in, the days or weeks before it actually starts. So what we're seeing this month is that it's especially important because we have the vacation allowance, so people get an extra month of pay this month. And what we also saw during the Corona pandemic, when people got their stimulus checks, yeah, sales boosted over 10%. So yeah, it's definitely something that we need to be thinking about, especially because yeah, you don't want to run out of money before the month ends, because yeah, people are already orienting. We're seeing that for summer holidays as well. Also, there it's a little harder to predict when exactly the peak will be. But yeah, we'll in the next part of the slide we'll dive into how to get all of this data clean, and how to make it actionable with automation as well.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So these examples are really just, again, to show you all the different things. And the last one we're going to be looking at is this concept of self-generated seasonality. With truth be told, is something that Cornet introduced to me. So I'm going to hand over again to him to go through an example here.
Yeah, this one is maybe a little bit more out of the box thinking, but yeah, we see big companies do it. Amazon does it with their Prime Day, because it was really a challenge for them, and it's a challenge for some of our brands as well. That during Black Friday, everybody's looking for sales. All your competitors are bidding like crazy. You have a lot of competition. So what more and more brands are trying to do is create their own peak periods. I think Amazon
Yeah.
is a good example with their Prime Day. They have it a couple weeks before Black Friday, and they are big enough to create their own moment. But I think our clients can do this as well by claiming a certain period of the year or a certain week within the year. Now, Media Market does it with their Red Week. And what you can do is sort of undercut your competition by having your own promotional week. It helps when it also is connected to like a period of the year. And yeah, once you start doing this and continue to do this year over year, as you see Amazon doing it, people get used to it, and you create your own seasonality and your own peak week. Another brand, Lazy Susan, who sells garden furniture, with their marketing partner. They did it by creating a new period in which they sell products. They usually sell all of their products from between March and August, because that's when people are focusing on their garden and spending on their garden. During the winter season, people were usually spending more money inside. So Lazy Susan was kind of missing out. But they kind of rebrand themselves at the end of the year to focus more on the winter barbecue season, because that's something that's gaining popularity, and they've really established themselves as a brand that is also into that space. And now December used to be one of their lowest sales months, and it's now yeah, not at the level that summer is, but it's definitely increased by 40 to 50% during their low season. So that's great for them, because they have a lot of yeah, a lot of people there that weren't doing that much in December. So now they're making the most of that month as well.
I think that's super awesome. And that really takes us into the next sections, where we're now going to be talking about how can we use data analytics to spot seasonality. And then finally, we're going to be looking at how can you make the most of it and optimize. So let's go through it. When you are looking to try and figure out what kind of seasonality is impacting your shop, you obviously want to start by analyzing just your core sales data to identify the most obvious trends that relate to you. So where can we get these? Well, the first thing is your critical data that you can pull out of your CMS. Maybe you already have this connected to some accounting system or something like that. But wherever you have it, we're talking about things like total sales revenue, gross profits, number of orders, average order value, number of new customers. It's really important to be able to get all that data, clean it, so that you can then visualize it for trends, right? As awesome as data is, if it's just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet, it's not very useful, right? So we want to visualize it using tools like Excel, Data Studio, so that you can really spot these peaks and off peaks and all these general trends, right? When do you see that increase in average order value? When do you see that increase in sales? Sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not. And that's why it's important also, finally, to segment for depth. I'm really excited for Cornet's example just now, where he shows how this makes a difference, because segmenting can be super important, whether that's segmenting on a time basis, which you'll see now, or also segmenting maybe on your categories, your brands, your products. It's important to think, how can I split this information so that I can make it richer to spot these trends, right? So you can see them across your portfolio. Once you're done with that, you want to dive deeper into your online shop analytics, all right? To understand not just how your shop performs, but also the behavior of your customers. So we're talking about shop data that you can collect sometimes from your shop system itself, or also from things like Google Analytics. Wherever you get it from, you want to be looking at your customer journey, your page visits and sessions, your bounce rates, and your conversion rates. Are there certain periods where you see these go up or down. And again, obviously segment along the way. And then we also want to understand inbound traffic. Is there a certain time where I'm receiving a lot of Google Ads traffic, where I'm receiving a lot of organic traffic, where I'm receiving a lot of social traffic? Because this is really important to understand, when do you get which customers, right? So what channels are driving traffic? Key search terms as well. Are there certain search terms that are driving traffic during certain periods and certain times that are not? And obviously other things like demographics, geographics, and anything else that you can segment on. Finally, right, we want to dive into the data collected from your marketing channels, right? There's so much data that you can use, that you can dive into, whether it's on SEA, paid socials, or SEO, right? So that you can also understand, when are these more effective, and also when are they most costly? Because I think something Cornet touched on earlier is, while it's great maybe during the Black Friday period that there's increased sales, there's also a lot more competition during that period. That's why some people try and move away from that, because you want to also understand that increase in demand might also be matched with a massive increase in costs. So you want to be able to really break it all down. So when it comes to things like Google Ads, your SEA, you want to look at impressions, click-through rates, conversion rates, CPCs, CPAs, ROAS, etc., etc. Right? When it comes to your socials, when do you see the most engagement? When do you see the most impressions? And again, CTRs, conversion rates, ROAS, POAS, etc. And then finally, never forget about SEO. As much as we love to focus on paid channels, we also know that organic unpaid is one of the most amazing ways to get a customer, right? So we want to understand through things like Google Search Console and trends, when is there certain search volume? When do we get certain visibility? When do we get branded traffic? When are we increasing in our average positions, etc., etc. So there's a lot of data here, and don't worry, we're going to share the slides with you guys afterwards, so you don't have to jot all this down. This is just to get your mind percolating about the various different types of data that you can be looking out for. Whew, a lot. Cornet, how do you tackle this with Protos? With
Yeah,
an
definitely.
example.
Because I have a very real world example that we did for, again, Brunotti, so the client that we talked about earlier, the board sports brand, because they kind of had the feeling that there was a strong relationship between temperature and their revenue. And they thought, yeah, it might be interesting to maybe increase or decrease our bids based on the weather. So we did an analysis looking at, okay, what was the temperature on a specific day? What was the revenue? And we didn't really see a very big trend. It was kind of shattered all along. There were a couple of peaks, but not really on high temperature or low temperature days. Yeah, so what we needed to do was clean our data and segment. So what we did, and you can see it in the next slide, is we excluded all of the days on which they sent emails, on which they had big campaigns. We excluded a couple of channels because we know that, for example, display or video might send a lot of traffic on a specific day, but we try to take the channels that are more stable. So we looked at the branded paid search, shopping, organic, and what we did was split out the winter period, the summer period, took out a couple of other external factors, and then when we did the analysis again, we saw a very strong relationship, especially in the summer period, between the high temperature days and increased revenue. And based on that, we made a bidding model, and we'll talk about that later on how we did that and automated it. That increases bids on certain days that the temperature is high, and we also have specific visuals and marketing creatives for specific days, and I'll have an example about that later. But yeah, this is I guess a very clear example of an analysis we first did in 1 or 2 hours, which we thought, oh, no results, and then we really dove in, cleaned up the data, did the analysis again, and then yeah, once you do that the right way, you see that there definitely is a big influence there, which
Yeah.
you can use to maximize your results.
Super cool to see how segmenting made a big difference here. I know you guys did this before working with Shop Story, so I'm curious, what was it like downloading the data, cleaning the data before you could get to the juicy, interesting parts? Was it a lot of
Yeah,
work?
definitely. So the first analysis that didn't give us a result was only, I guess, 1.5 to 2 hours of work. But then when we had to look back or go back in 2 years of data, get out all of the peaks, exclude the marketing campaigns, it was, I guess, 2 days of work.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, that's why we are trying to, work through this with automation as much as possible. So now I'm going to be talking a little bit about how Shop Story tackles this kind of stuff with automation. So in what we've got here is some screenshots from a flow. Guys, this is You got 3 screenshots. It's one really, really long flow. So I've had to break it into these 3 screenshots so you can see they kind of connect. But essentially, with what you're able to do with shop stories, you're able to connect it to these various data sources. So in the example that I've got here, you can connect it to Shopify. And what we can then do is download all of that data from Shopify, post it into a sheet, and then using various different techniques that we've got behind the scenes in these automations, what we're able to do is clean the data, like all these things that Corne spoke about, removing certain the marketing channels, removing certain other things that might make noise, as well as segmenting it, etc., whatever we need. We can set a lot of rules in place so that we can clean the data. And once that's organized and cleaned, it then pastes back into a sheet where the output is set up and ready to be put straight into something like Data Studio. The best part of data analysis is clicking the button when it goes to Data Studio and everything visualizes. But the hardest part, and probably the most important part, is downloading the right data and cleaning it the right way. So with all that relevant data downloaded, organized, and clean, and input into a sheet, then you can really visualize it really, really well. And what's really cool about no-code automation is that you can apply this process to any integration that's supported. So if you want the data from Google Ads, like all those different data points we spoke about, if you want data from Search Console, all those different data points we spoke about, etc., we can create rules for you so that that data is downloaded and whatever you want excluded and so on and so forth is ready so that you can click go and run it. And the beautiful part of this is once it's all set up, you can do it whenever you want to. You're going to
Yeah,
say,
I guess
Cornet?
the biggest thing for us was if in the past ones we had to do an analysis, you downloaded all of the data, created everything, and then after it you thought, oh, maybe we should split mobile and desktop because there might be a big difference there. And now because everything's connected, everything's through the APIs, it's not having to download all of the data again. It's just split it into mobile and desktop, and then we have 2 different dashboards with those different types of data. We can really easily see what the impact if there is any, and then maybe age makes sense. Just one button and we can add it instead of having to download all of the data again.
Super cool, super cool. Glad to hear that. Awesome. So we've talked about the data that you need to focus on. We've talked about how you can analyze it, segmenting, and using automation. Let's get into the coolest part that we're going to finish off with, which is about optimizing e-commerce and marketing for seasonality. So I think one of the most important things for many e-commerce shops is paid ads. We want to make sure that we tailor our paid ad strategy to account for seasonality. We don't want to spend money when it's not worth it. We don't want to be burning our budget, but we also want to make sure we're spending a lot of money when that demand is high, when it's the right moment for us to do so. So in terms of search engine advertising, there's essentially 2 parts, and you're going to see repetition in all these theoretical parts, which is budget or content and budget. So in SEA, we want to adjust all of our content. When we're looking at search campaigns, we're talking about including seasonal keywords, both in your ad copy and in your keyword bidding. So all that data that you get out of your search console can be used here in your search campaigns. The same goes for shopping and PMAX, including those seasonal keywords in your titles, your descriptions, and of course, with an understanding of the seasonality behind those, adjusting images and so on. And if you've got any other sorts of search engine advertising, for example, Bing, it's another, then you can apply the same principle. So that's on the content side. That's all about tailoring your content so that it fits the season. But of course, you also want to focus on your and tailor your budgets and your bids. And I think this is kind of obvious, but isn't always implemented properly. And that is increasing your bids and boosting your budgets when you're anticipating higher demand. So if you know that you've got a seasonal spike in demand coming, or it's already started, now's the time to spend more money. Now's the time to increase those bids. And vice versa, when that seasonality drops off, you want to make sure you decrease your bids, decrease your budget when that lower demand is on its way. And a similar principle applies to paid social ads. Of course, in action, it's a bit different, but it's the same way of thinking. Content and budget. How you adjust your creative content is going to make a big difference. You can reposition a lot of things, right? Repositioning creative content to appeal based on anticipated changes in these interests. So maybe you have a product that looks good in one weather and then another weather, right? Hot, cold, etc., etc. Maybe there's a certain event coming up where your product that otherwise still sells throughout the year might be really interesting, right? You want to position it in a creative aspect so that it's ready for that. And of course, budget, similar kind of idea. Adjust budget when anticipating higher or lower demand, or if you're already seeing higher or lower demand. And if this is relevant, change your targeted interests so that you're spending the budget in the right places at the right times according to these seasonal changes. Oops. So how did you guys tackle this, Corne, with these examples?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I'm using Brunotti as an example here, and we had a really great sales period for them last year, and they have a promotion that they do every year, and the first weekend when the temperature's over 30 degrees, which really is kicks off the summer period for them, they have their pre-summer sale, which is really a big moment for them. It was their second biggest day of revenue after Black Friday last year. But yeah, of course, the challenge for us is that you don't know when the weather will hit 30. And a lot needs to change at that exact point when that happens. So what we did and what we do now using Shop Story is have a newsletter, have specific creatives, change all of our Google text ads to reflect the promo as soon as the weather hits that spot. And what we also do, because you obviously talk about bidding and budgets as well, because we can change all of these creatives, have a promotion, but then our daily budget will probably run out somewhere midway through the morning. So what we do is we have a certain set of rules set up that if our ROAS hits a certain target, okay, the campaign is allowed to spend this percentage more. And if we see the ROAS still very good in over the last 2 or 3 hours, then we have another increase in budget. So usually in the last couple of years, what we had to do is have some people, be online on a Saturday to really see, okay, we have to call the client. Is there someone there? Did you already put the promo live? Now what we can do is have everything automated, have the rules check if the ROAS is right, make sure that all of the creatives are launched across all channels at the same time. And that really made sure that we had the biggest sales day apart from Black Friday for Brunotti last year.
Awesome, Corey. I love to hear how you guys are using Shop Story with these automated flows. And yeah, we're going to dive into an example about that now. But I just want to make clear before I jump into the example, these are just a few examples. So like what Corne just spoke about now, you can automate your spending to be based on ROAS, to be based on various different metrics that are relevant to you. It doesn't always have to be just based on weather or seasonality, but we can pretty much automate anything that you see fit or that makes sense in your case. And in this example, we're going to be talking about adjusting campaign bidding based on weather data of a particular location. So here we had a client who advertises in a lot of different cities, right? They've got products where they're advertising in Berlin, in Copenhagen, in here and there, and what, and they have different campaigns for all these different locations. So what we do is we input all of the weather data automatically into a spreadsheet, right, into a Google sheet, and then we input that into a flow. So on the left side of the screen, you see the beginning of the flow. Again, I've had to split this into two parts. And you don't really have to look at all the specifics. I'm just going to talk through how this works. But essentially what the flow does is it downloads all of that weather data that's put into the spreadsheet, as well as Google Ads data. And it's extracted from that and then cleaned. And then it's pumped into this middle part here, this crazy boxes that we can see here, which is essentially a bunch of if statements with different rules for them being true or false. So what's going on here is the data is being analyzed. We're looking at different weather and we're looking at thresholds. And if certain thresholds are reached, then actions are taken accordingly in certain campaigns. And the cool thing is this is done iteratively for tons of campaigns. So you can really create a super dynamic setup where all of your different campaigns have a whole bunch of different rules that are perfectly tailored towards those specific locations, those specific markets, etc., etc. And the final output is that automatically all of these campaign bids are adjusted. And the same thing can be done for budgets. So in this example, we're talking about bidding. Corne just spoke earlier about how they do budget changes based on ROAS. And all of this can be set up in an automated example. Now, of course, you can walk away from this webinar and do all of this manually, which definitely is going to help you. But yeah, automation, we believe, is the way forward. And like I said, there's endless possibilities. The same can be done for relevant seasonal events like public holidays, sports events. If you see that on a bank holiday, you have higher spending or lower spending, whatever it is, essentially any data that can be easily pasted into a Google spreadsheet, right? Or even automatically pasted, because there's also tons of ways to do that. Any of that can then be used to optimize your campaigns. So in a flow like this, we do a very similar thing where we take that data, we run it through different rules, and we adjust the bidding in this example or the budgets. So the same can be applied to essentially any campaign setting that you see fit. And I really want to stress that this doesn't just apply to Google Ads, but it can also be done to things like Meta or even your Shopify account, where you can launch certain promotions at very specific times based on this information. So we're moving towards the end now. We've gone through all the paid campaigns. Finally, we're going to talk about unpaid, about SEO. A lot of people don't focus on it enough because you're not spending money there, so you think it's not that important. But by adjusting your SEO, your search engine optimization, offerings can be adjusted or tailored to maximize organic reach based on the seasonal search activity. So we can retailer products, same product, new season, using relevant search seasonal keywords in your titles and descriptions. We can reposition products, categories, and even brands when relevant. So this is a really cool way of turning one product that works a certain way in the summer into the same product, but same, but different in the winter. I think Cornet's got a cool example with the barbecues. I don't know if we talk about that just now, but summer barbecues turning into winter barbecues. Um, and yeah, also keeping an eye out for these seasonal trends so that you can pump out seasonal content to drive traffic. So you want to capture seasonal traffic with relevant content that relates to your offering, with blog articles and so on and so forth, so that you can really push your ranking and get those free sales. And so obviously it's not free because there's a lot of work that goes into it, but yeah, you're not paying Google for it. How do you guys do this with Lazy Susan? Cornet, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is the same client as the example for the barbecue season, and we definitely do a lot of SEO around that with recipes and stuff, especially for the winter barbecue. But what we also do is we use SEO more top of funnel. So we're not really focusing on garden furniture per se, but we're trying to cultivate an audience of people who might be interested in the garden furniture. So we know that the audience is, because of the style of the furniture, is a little bit older, and we know that they really often have their children and grandchildren play in the garden. So this is definitely something that people will be searching for earlier in the season. So what we do during the winter time is create a lot of content around garden games, history of garden games, the guide to garden games, and focus a lot of content on that. We'll see that it starts ranking a little bit, and then once the season comes, people start searching. We really keep a close eye on Google Search Console, the search trends, because yeah, the games and the trends are going to be a little bit different each season. We adjust our content based on that, and that gives us early in the season a list of that we can remarket of people who have a big garden, who are interested in playing games in their garden, having their family over, and we know that is the right audience for Lazy Susan. So later in the season, we can retarget those people and and sell the products. And it's the most important thing is that we tweak all of these articles every year to make sure that they follow the latest trends and are really tailored to those potential customers.
Super, super, super interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us. So I see a lot of questions coming through. We're going to have a Q&A session in a moment. But I do notice that one of the questions mentioned AI. So Malik wants to know what the effect of AI will be on SEO. And I think that's really cool because in our next example, we talk a little bit about how ShopStory uses OpenAI, so ChatGPT, to adjust titles and other attributes in shop systems or campaigns. So automation example, right? You've got lots of search console data, tons of it actually, but how do you use it effectively? So one of the things that we've been doing here at ShopStory is trying to leverage all of that data and AI to really make sure that all the titles, descriptions, and even blog articles that you're posting on your shop match your Search Console data and follow those trends. Because we've been talking about some very obvious seasonality here, but there are also some seasonal trends that are really tough to keep up with. Some people are interested in certain things at certain times, others are not. And so what we've done is we've created a flow where we take all of this Search Console data and we extract it and we clean it. That's in the first part of the flow here, where we can see we download things and then iteratively we really work through it all. And then the highest performing keywords are identified based on certain rules. So there's obvious rules that are going to, if you see in the example here, like smoker barbecue all of a sudden becomes interesting, or winter barbecue all of a sudden becomes interesting. Maybe no one was expecting that, right? And so what we do here is then we input this into ChatGPT with obviously intelligent prompts. You can't just say to ChatGPT, hey, make it work, but you have to really speak to ChatGPT. And that's something we've been working on here at ShopStory. Once that's done, so all that Search Console data is extracted, it's cleaned, the threshold analysis are done, and we've extracted some really good, sexy keywords that are performing well. ChatGPT then takes your in this example, your Shopify data, your Shopify titles and descriptions, looks at how they were before, looks at the keywords that we've told it should implement, and then puts them together. And the output is changes in titles in Shopify, but it could also be new blog posts. And a similar example can also be applied to your paid campaigns, where you tweak the titles of your products in your shopping ads, etc., etc., etc. So this is one of the ways that you can leverage AI. We believe that AI, you can't just let AI do everything, but if you use AI in very specific ways, tell it which data to take, tell it how to use that data, and then tell it where to put it, it will then think really intelligently and apply things accordingly. And yeah, that's one of our last, that is our last example. So we're going to move towards the Q&A now, but just some final tips before we get going. For those that are approaching seasonality, we've gone through a lot today. There's a lot that you can look at. There's a lot of seasonal trends and things going on. But I think what's important to do is start with what you already know. Cornet said it earlier with one of the examples, I think with Brunotti, there were some obvious trends that they felt were happening. And so they broke it down, they analyzed it, and they actually identified it. And then they were able to also measure the trend. So the obvious trends that you've been able to see, start there. And keep it focused. Don't try to do it all at once, right? Don't try and go crazy. Focus on the trends that are key and don't attack everything at once. It says everyone, it's supposed to say everything at once. Don't attack anyone. But yeah, keep your focus. Don't do it all. And of course, consider using automation for seasonality. Because again, there's going to be a lot of stuff working in behind the scenes that you'll never really be able to perfectly identify. But for example, by connecting to your Search Console data, connecting to all your various different data points, you might just be able to automatically adjust before you even have to see it happening. And so if any of you have found these automation examples interesting, please feel free to reach out. I think you've got our website now. You know how to contact us. Here's my details, and book an automation consultation or a demo with one of us, because we'd love to work with you to see how can you leverage automation. And of course, does automation even make sense for you? We really want to dive into your processes and see if there's a use case, if there's an ROI potential. Whew. So before we wrap it up, time for Q&A. And Cornet, I'd love it if you also feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think there was one here. Do you recommend creating your own seasonality to go for season or go for seasonality like Black Friday? How do you differentiate between whether you should do it the one way or the other, Cornet?
Yeah, definitely. I think we usually tend to do both for our clients. So you know that there's just going to be a higher demand during Black Friday. I guess it's not something that you really can do anything about. Even the clients that are not having a Black Friday promo, we still see them having an increased sales during the Black Friday period. So I guess it's just an analysis based on the margins that you're making during Black Friday. You see that cost per click is higher, but then also conversion rates higher. Average order value is usually higher, but your margins tend to be lower because you probably have to discount a little bit to be competitive. So in the end, does it make sense based on the volumes in revenue and what you're paying? Does it add to your bottom line? And if it doesn't, then yeah, sure, be brave. Don't do Black Friday if it doesn't work for you. And a really big analysis that we've done lately for our clients is the clients that are purchasing during Black Friday. Are those the clients that you really want, or are they just there for this discount? Because yeah, we tend to work with our clients based on customer lifetime value and customer acquisition costs. So we don't only look at the first purchase, but we look at the added value of a customer over time, which sometimes makes sense. For Brunelli, obviously, people return a lot to buy more products. For Lazy Susan garden furniture, people don't tend to come back that often. But
Yeah,
especially for the clients where you look at customer lifetime value, make sure that you do an analysis after like 3 to 6 months and see, hey, those people that I got in at a discount, have they been back to my store? And yeah, if there's another period in the year which is relevant for you, and you're able to create your own seasonality, and it definitely helps to have like returning campaigns every year or at a specific time of the month, specific time of the quarter, to really let people know like, oh, we can expect that sale from that specific brand to come. And then you still have to probably give people a discount, but you don't have this high competition and those high CPC. So yeah, just test and see what it does to your bottom line.
100%. So tracking the right metrics, CLTV. Also, I mean, I know a lot of companies see massive up peaks in their revenue, but then they don't really look at gross profitability, and it ends up not
Yeah.
being worth it. But like you said, if it leads to more sales down the line, then I guess it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the example here, but we saw a really funny thing of people who bought like in November last year, and then there's a huge peak in that specific sales group buying again in Black Friday. There's just a Black Friday demographic or a Black Friday group that only buys then. So you want to
Yeah.
target them with a specific range of products, probably. You want the products that are just more dead stock.
I might be guilty of that, to be honest. So I want to go back to Malik here because he did respond to what I said earlier about using AI, and how AI is in your response, Malik. You said that AI is it's kind of inflating a lot of things and making it tough to rank higher, and that's totally true, right? Everybody's pumping out tons of content. Everyone's changing lots of things using AI. But the truth is, if you don't use AI, you're going to lose. So how do you leverage AI competitively? That's a big question that we've been asking ourselves here at Chop Story. And I think the key that we've identified that really works and has worked for our clients here, is to use the right data, to feed AI with the right data, and to use the right prompting. So if you use ChatGPT and you just say, hey, make my descriptions better, it's just going to use like general data that it has to make your descriptions better. And that's the same approach that 95% of your competitors are going to be doing. But if you're using ChatGPT, OpenAI, for example, and you're feeding it with all the right data points, and that's what automated flows like we build enable you to do, right? You can pull all of this data from various different places, and you really can. I mean, you can feed it with Shopify data, you can feed it with Search Console data, Google Ads data, all at the same time. And if you filter that data also properly so that it gets all the good stuff, and you say, okay, based on data point XYZ, which are important for XYZ reasons, I want you to now look at all of these, titles and descriptions, for example, and I want you to improve them with these keywords based on these KPI points, etc., etc. So I think the winners are going to come out by leveraging AI in the best way possible, by really, turning it into like an arrow point where it's directed in the right place at the right time, with the right data, because otherwise it's just going to do what it thinks is best, and that's what everybody's going to be using. So I think that's really the big difference. Hope that makes sense. Feel free to comment in the chat what you think about that. Yeah, I don't know how you guys been using AI on your side, Cornet.
Yeah, so one of the big things for us is we use AI to optimize our product feeds. So what we've seen is that, yeah, like you said, it's getting more and more important that you provide all of the channels with the right input. So that can be input in terms of data, but also input in terms of your product feed. And what we saw was that it's quite a challenge for our customers to have a fully filled product feed. Especially we have some clients that are marketplaces, so there are third parties, the vendors of the products are importing their data into the marketplace, and then we're exporting the marketplace data into, well, for example, Channable or another feed management tool, and then sending it to Merchant Center. So it's really hard for them to have, for example, the measurements of a product or the weight. So what we do is we have AI analyze all of the product variables that we do have it analyze the product page, and then yeah, have AI fill all of the gaps that are in the product feed. So that's definitely something that we're using, and I guess AI can really help you once you're stuck in a thought process. So maybe you want to think, you have an article, you think, oh, what else can I add here, or what else are people thinking about concerning this subject. I guess there was a question as well about how we use it for Lazy Susan and SEO. So yeah, once we're writing articles, we just have ChatGPT come up with other suggestions, maybe rewrite some stuff to have it fit to a specific audience. Because yeah, our here in house we do have some capacity to write some articles, but then if it's tailored to a specific audience, like a older demographic, people in the UK who look for garden furniture, it really makes sense to have AI look and write something more specific for that audience, change some words. That's definitely where we've been using it.
Amazing, amazing. And I'm sure you've been checking out some of the workflows that we've got for that, because yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
definitely.
really cool ways to connect all these dots. So we're open to any more questions. We know that people have probably got meetings coming up soon, so we're probably gonna kick it off in the next few minutes. Has anybody got any final questions? Oh, I see some stuff popping up in the Q&A. I was hanging out in the chat room for a little while. Is Malik's got another one. So, Malik, we love people who ask lots of questions. Would you be able to automate the process of optimizing product feeds or product descriptions for a shop with hundreds of products? Malik, 100%. We work with shops that have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of products. In fact, we've kind of designed for that. So what we consider our optimal, our best kind of client, our ideal customer profile, is someone that has a high degree of complexity in their shop, because that's where we feel like automation really, really, really makes a lot of sense. If you're an online shop that only sells a few products, you only have a few campaigns, and it's not that hard to manage individually. I'm not going to lie. But if you've got tons of products and tons of campaigns, this is where these iterative automation processes really, really become useful. So yeah, if this is something you're interested, I'd really love to have a chat with you to better understand your shop and how you guys work, and maybe we can see where we go, and if not, have a great chat. Yeah. Any more questions? And feel free to reply to that, Malik. But if there's any more questions before we wrap it up. All right. Well, don't want to force it. So, any final words from your side, Cornet? I just want to say thanks for showing up to everyone. But over to you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I guess, yeah, like, as the last slide is saying, if you're interested in the Protos roadmap, or want to have a chat on how we as an agency have implemented automation, yeah, using Shop Story for our clients, want some more examples, or dig deeper into one of the examples that I gave, feel free to reach out. Yep, either via the link and then our roadmap download, or yeah, send me a chat on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and vice versa, guys. If you want to reach out, please do. We've got a QR code here, but you can also obviously contact us via our website. We got a ton of links that you can contact us via. I'm also on LinkedIn, so feel free to hit me up. But before we go, a last question came through from Sarah, and I don't want to leave any questions hanging. So, a challenge you're facing: how can you avoid getting your customers used to promos, because it hurts margins in the long run? Cornet, you're an expert. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we and our clients are struggling with as well, because we see that the market is getting more and more promotion focused. So what we're trying to do with our clients is uh, use promos only to make sure that we increase the value as well. So promos based on getting people to a higher order value. What we see often now is we give people like a free gift with their order or a loyalty point. So we try to move away a little bit of just the high percentage discounts and make sure that we have tailored promo. So we have some promotions for new clients, and those often include a sales percentage. But then for a specific client, we have may have a promo just to get them into our more premium range of products or have them increase their order value. So that's definitely something that we try to target more instead of just broad 30, 40, 50% discounts on the entire shop, because people in the end will know, okay, this is a brand that gives discount, and just wait for your next discount. So yeah, we're trying to also with automation tailor that specifically to different audiences so that it's not just a discount for the customer, we get something out of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually reminds me of a flow where when customers make certain purchases, you can send them very specific promotions, right? So
Yeah.
that's a flow we set up recently. If someone makes a purchase above a certain order value for the first time, obviously without a promotion, then you send them a promo. So yeah, there's various different ways in which you can tackle this. But yeah, I see Sarah's typing here. But guys, I think it's time for us to slowly wrap it up. We'll tackle that final comment from Sarah, and then we'll call it a day. But yeah, cool, awesome, awesome, Sarah. Excited to see you check out our flows, and maybe we can have a conversation sometime soon. Cool. Well, thank you all for showing up. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Cornet, for joining us today, or
Yeah,
joining
thank you,
me.
James, for having me.
It was really awesome. It was awesome webinar. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from some of you, and we wish you all a wonderful day.
Great day. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.